Imagine this. You meet someone who seems kind, intelligent, and full of wisdom. They say all the right things, present themselves as virtuous, and even appear to follow principles of honesty and integrity. But beneath the surface, something feels off. The Stoics warned us about these kinds of people, those who hide in plain sight, wearing a mask of goodness while secretly working towards their own selfish ends. The worst part? Most people never see them coming. Evil isn't always obvious. It doesn't always wear a villain's cloak or announce itself with a sinister grin. Often, it operates in the shadows, disguised as a friend, a leader, or even a mentor. The Stoics, masters of wisdom and self-discipline, knew this all too well. They studied human nature deeply and developed methods to recognize and protect themselves from these hidden manipulators. Today we'll uncover how the Stoics identified evil people, the traits they warned about, and how you can apply their wisdom to navigate the world with clarity and strength. Stick around, because once you learn this, you'll never see people the same way again. 1. The nature of evil, what the Stoics believed. The Stoics had a clear and unsettling truth about evil. It exists in everyone, not as a supernatural force, but as a potential within human nature. Seneca, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, said, "No man is more unhappy than he who never faces adversity, for he is not permitted to prove himself." What does this mean? It means that in the absence of struggle, a person's true nature remains hidden. And sometimes what's hidden is not virtue, but vice. To the Stoics, evil wasn't always loud or violent. It was often subtle, selfishness disguised as ambition, manipulation masked as kindness, deception presented as wisdom. Marcus Aurelius warned against this in Meditations, advising himself to recognize the rottenness of those who feign goodness. Evil, in its most dangerous form, doesn't look evil at all. It blends in, adapts, and pretends. But here's the key lesson. The Stoics didn't fear evil people. They studied them. Instead of being paranoid or cynical, they trained themselves to see human nature clearly, without illusions, without wishful thinking. They understood that while some people actively seek to harm, many are simply ruled by their own unchecked desires, power, greed, envy. So the first step in identifying hidden evil is this: understand that it exists everywhere, even in people who seem good. The Stoics weren't pessimists, they were realists. And once you accept this truth, you'll start noticing what others miss. 2. False virtue, how evil masquerades as good. The most dangerous people are not the openly wicked. They are the ones who pretend to be virtuous. The Stoics understood this well. Seneca warned, "No man is more cheated than the one who believes himself to be shrewd." In other words, those who think they can't be fooled are often the first to fall victim to deception. Evil people don't introduce themselves as villains. Instead, they wear a mask of false virtue, kindness without sincerity, generosity with hidden motives, wisdom used to manipulate. Marcus Aurelius observed that some people speak of justice, fairness, and honesty, but when tested, they reveal their true nature. This is why the Stoics believed that words mean little, actions reveal everything. Take the example of a corrupt leader who constantly speaks of honor and integrity, yet behind closed doors exploits the very people he claims to serve. Or the so-called friend who flatters you in person, but undermines you when you're not around. These people don't just deceive others, they deceive themselves, convincing themselves that their actions are justified. The Stoics had a simple rule: judge people not by what they say, but by what they repeatedly do. If someone preaches virtue but acts with deceit, they are not virtuous, they are dangerous. So how do you protect yourself? Pay attention to patterns. A single act of kindness can be faked. A life of integrity cannot. The next time someone tries to impress you with their goodness, watch their actions, not their words. 3. Deception and manipulation, the tools of the wicked. Evil people don't rely on force. They don't need to. They use deception, manipulation, and psychological tricks to get what they want. The Stoics understood this and trained themselves to recognize these tactics before they could take hold. Epictetus warned, "It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Why? Because manipulators thrive on controlling your reactions. Deception works because it exploits your emotions. A manipulator will play the victim to gain your sympathy. They will flatter you to lower your guard. They will plant doubt to make you question yourself. Marcus Aurelius noted that people often believe lies not because they are true, but because they want them to be true. This is how manipulators gain control, by feeding people the illusions they crave. Consider the classic tactics of the deceiver: gaslighting, making you question reality so they can rewrite the truth; guilt-tripping, making you feel responsible for their problems so you'll act in their favor; love-bombing, overwhelming you with praise and affection before revealing their true nature; divide and conquer, turning people against each other to maintain control. But the Stoics had a solution: emotional control. When you master your emotions, you become immune to manipulation. A manipulator's greatest weapon is your reaction. If you refuse to react, you take away their power. The lesson is clear: evil people don't force you. They guide you into trapping yourself. But once you learn their methods, you'll never fall for them again. 4. The role of self-interest: how greed and power corrupt. At the root of all deception, manipulation, and hidden evil lies one thing: self-interest. The Stoics understood that most people do not act out of pure malice, but rather out of an unchecked desire for power, status, or personal gain. Epictetus put it simply: he who seeks to control others is already a slave himself. Evil people are not always monstrous villains. Sometimes they are ordinary individuals who have allowed their desires to overtake their sense of virtue. A person who craves wealth will exploit others to get it. A leader who desires power will step on those beneath them. A friend who envies your success will secretly undermine you. They may not even recognize their own corruption, but their actions will always betray them. This is why the Stoics never trusted appearances alone. They looked beyond words and surface-level kindness to observe what truly motivated a person. Marcus Aurelius urged people to ask, what is this person truly after? If the answer is power, control, or personal advantage, be cautious. Here's how you can spot a self-serving person. They give only when they expect something in return. They change their values when it benefits them. They use others as stepping stones. They justify harmful actions by calling them necessary. The Stoics believed that true virtue comes from self-discipline and service to others, not from chasing wealth or influence. A person who values wisdom over ambition is trustworthy. A person who values status over integrity is dangerous. Next, we explore how the Stoics tested character, so you can spot hidden evil before it harms you. 5. Testing character: the Stoic method of discernment. The Stoics did not judge people by their words or first impressions. They tested them. Seneca advised, associate only with those who improve you, whose presence calls forth your best. But how do you know who truly belongs in your life? By observing them under pressure. The Stoics believed that a person's true character is not revealed in comfort, but in struggle. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself that adversity does not create virtue or vice. It only exposes what was already there. A selfish person will become more selfish when challenged. A deceitful person will double down on their lies when caught. A virtuous person, however, will remain steadfast no matter the circumstance. So how can you test someone's character? The Stoics had a few key methods. Observe how they handle failure. Do they take responsibility, or do they blame others? Watch how they treat people who can't benefit them. Are they kind to strangers, or only to those who hold power? See how they act when no one is watching. Do they maintain their integrity, or do they change depending on the audience? Give them small power and see what they do with it. Power magnifies a person's nature. A good person will use it to help others. A bad person will use it for control. The Stoics knew that you don't need to expose yourself to harm to identify dangerous people. Just give them time. If someone is pretending to be virtuous, eventually their true self will surface. 6. Guarding the mind, avoiding the influence of the corrupt. The Stoics understood that evil is not just something to identify, it is something to resist. Marcus Aurelius warned, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." In other words, the people and ideas you surround yourself with will shape you, for better or worse. Evil people do not always act directly against you. Sometimes they try to influence you subtly, shifting your mindset, lowering your standards, making you accept things you once rejected. This is how corruption spreads, not through force, but through slow, steady erosion. So, how do you guard your mind? The Stoics had a few simple but powerful rules. Limit exposure to toxic influences. If someone constantly lies, manipulates, or spreads negativity, their presence alone is a danger. As Seneca said, you should avoid all unnecessary association with people who have an unwholesome influence. Strengthen your inner fortress. Evil gains power when it finds weakness. If you build self-discipline, wisdom, and emotional control, deceit and manipulation will have no effect on you. Hold fast to your values. The Stoics believed in living by principles, not by convenience. If something is wrong, it is wrong, even if everyone else tolerates it. Question everything. Never accept words at face value. The Stoics trained themselves to analyze, to think critically, and to ask, who benefits from this? What is the true intention behind these words? The strongest defense against evil is a mind that cannot be controlled. When you develop this, no manipulator, liar, or corrupt individual can shake you. 7. Stoic responses to evil, resisting without hatred. The Stoics believe that resisting evil is necessary, but hating it is a mistake. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." In other words, when faced with deceit, cruelty, or betrayal, the Stoic response is not to retaliate with the same behavior, but to rise above it. Evil thrives on emotional reactions. Manipulators want you to be angry, afraid, or vengeful because it makes you easier to control. But the Stoics practiced calm, rational resistance. They refused to let their emotions be dictated by others. Here's how they resisted evil without losing their own virtue. They focused on self-control. When attacked, they did not react impulsively. Instead, they responded with measured thought. They chose logic over emotion. Instead of wasting energy on hatred, they asked, what is the most effective way to counter this? They did not seek revenge. Seneca warned that revenge only drags you down to the level of the wrongdoer. Instead, the Stoics focused on justice, wisdom, and personal strength. They stayed true to their own values. No matter what others did, the Stoic held fast to their principles. They refused to let evil corrupt their own character. The lesson is clear. You do not need to become cruel to defeat cruelty. You do not need to lie to counter liars. The strongest person is the one who stays virtuous in a world that isn't. 8. The path to virtue, overcoming evil through wisdom. The Stoics believed that the best way to defeat evil was not with anger, deception, or revenge, but with wisdom and virtue. Epictetus said, "The greater the difficulty, the more glory in surmounting it." In other words, the presence of evil is not an excuse to abandon virtue. It is a challenge to become stronger. Evil people rely on ignorance, manipulation, and fear. But a wise person cannot be deceived, and a virtuous person cannot be controlled. The Stoics focused on strengthening themselves rather than wasting time fighting darkness directly. When you cultivate self-discipline, honesty, and reason, You become immune to the tactics of the corrupt. Here's how they overcame evil through wisdom. They led by example. They did not waste time arguing with the wicked. Instead, they lived in such a way that their actions became proof of virtue. They stayed calm in the face of deceit. When tested, they responded not with emotion, but with reason. They educated themselves. Knowledge is the greatest defense. The more you understand human nature, the harder it is to be manipulated. They sought inner peace. Evil thrives on chaos, but a Stoic mind is unshaken. The more stable you are, the less external corruption can affect you. The ultimate lesson? You do not need to destroy evil. You need to make yourself untouchable by it. When you live with wisdom and virtue, evil people lose all power over you. If you found this valuable, like the video, subscribe for more Stoic wisdom and leave a comment below. What's one Stoic lesson that has changed your perspective?